excellent show lined up for you here for episode 140 of Coast to Coast Pinball. We have a great interview with the reigning, defending, undisputed world pinball champion, the Papa 17 champion, Mr. Cayley George, coming to you. Let's go. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers, podcast commentary man out of quarters, yada, yada, yada. Really excited to have Cayley George come on the show. Been trying to track him down for a little while. His life is going through a big, crazy change. He's moved from Seattle to outside Amsterdam in the Netherlands. He is a top 10 IFPA-ranked player. He is the current defending champion of the Papa A division, so I think it is a great time to have Cayley come on the show and talk about his win last year, his look forward to this year. We're actually going to go through all the games that have been announced for the A Bank and get some insight into how Cayley feels about those games. He's got great opinions on some really good stuff, and they may be opinions that surprise you. I think that he put some really good thoughts out there into this interview, and I really appreciate him coming on. I hope you guys enjoy this. Let's get this thing on. I want to welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball and thank him very much for taking some time out for us. Mr. Cayley George, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Cayley, you're the reigning world pinball champion. Do you get tired of people saying that out loud?
Well, I don't know. It's only been a couple months, so I haven't heard it that much.
You're getting shorted on this. You're going to be the shortest reigning Papa champion ever.
Ouch! I could repeat. I mean, I could just be the shortest,
Yeah, well, that's
of
true.
Office for 1 year, but
it's a new reign, I guess is what I mean.
I do have a chance. Yes.
It would be a new reign. Your current reign will be the shortest. Your next one. You're right.
No, yeah, you never know. It would be very challenging to repeat, but actually, I'm super excited that Papa is coming up earlier because it just means more Papa more often, I think.
So you like the change?
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it was the other way around somehow, that would not be any fun.
So I watched you a little bit, and we hadn't really met yet, but I watched you play last year at Papa, and you have a way about a pinball machine that is sort of, a lot of guys are jumping around and yelling and screaming and banging on the machine. You don't seem to do that from what I've seen. You have a very calculated, almost kind of level and cold approach to the game. Was that accurate, you think?
Yeah, it depends. If things aren't going my way, I think I get a little more animated because it wakes me up a bit. So
it was all just going your way last year, though.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. It depends. I seem to have various styles. People often say I'm more calm and collected, but usually I'm freaking out inside a bit more than I guess I'm showing it. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, last year at Papa, there's a funny part in the video. While I'm playing on Adam's Family, and everybody comments about how there's a weird half flip going on there, and that was me pressing the flipper halfway because I was nervous.
Really?
So, yeah, because it can be difficult sometimes. There's a really interesting thing that's happened with overhead cameras is where the crowd anticipates what you're doing now. You used to get a lot of reactions from the crowd after things would already happen.
Once they hit the DMD, maybe.
Yeah, so you'd set up a jackpot shot and you'd shoot it, and then you'd nail it, and everybody go yay and clap or something, and that was exciting. And now you set up a jackpot shot and everybody freaks out, and then you either hit it or you don't. It can be a little more nerve-wracking sometimes. And sometimes it takes just a little while to settle in, It was like, okay, I flubbed my Addams Family shot and then hit a couple others, and then I was good to go. So, yeah.
The mix of games in the finals last year at Papa 17, for those listening who didn't watch the replay or weren't there, it was Addams Family, which is obviously an all-time classic modern game. Metallica, which is in some ways sort of the current iteration of Addams Family on some level, because it is one of the hottest of the late model Sterns, and then Alien Star. What was it like going through those three games, and how do you do that? Different flipper feel, different game speed, different concept. Is that a tough transition game to game to game?
It can be, but it's actually not bad. I think if I was choosing an order to prefer to play the three in, I would probably pick Alien Star first, then Adams, and then Metallica. In fact, just as an aside, that's something I often think about when I'm qualifying in a tournament like Papa is the order of machines based on the mechanics of those. And in the finals there, Alien Star is a bit of a slower game, even though for an old game it's fast. It's slower than Atoms and Metallica. Sometimes it's nice to play games in an order that builds on speed or transitions more smoothly between mechanics. So, Alien Star being a little bit slower than Atoms being a mid-90s DMD, faster but still slower than a modern Stern. Be nice to play in that order. In Papa Finals, of course, we went Atoms, Alien Star, and then Metallica. But I didn't really get that much game time on Alien Star in the final, so I don't really think it slowed me down much.
Yeah. So, watching that, it was... I knew this, and you probably did too, because I know you know Josh Sharp pretty well. He owns a Metallica. Do you own Metallica at home? Or did you before you made this move we'll talk about?
I don't have a Metallica, a Addams Family, or an Alien Star. I think it'd be kind of weird if I owned an Alien Star because it's kind of rare. But
that would be weird.
I have had game time on that before, though, and I think it's a great game. Just because I do kind of like games these days where you're challenged to do the thing. And the thing on that game, Alien Star, is to shats the right in lane and then power the spinner during multi-ball. So it's always nice when you have a contest of an oddball skill like that. But yeah, I don't have a Metallica, and
were you aware of Josh choosing that game and owning that game, and does that go through your mind and you're like, oh boy, here we go? It
wasn't even like a question which game he was going to choose for game 3. Of course it was going to be Metallica, and I was kind of dreading playing Metallica because I just don't find it that fun. And if I'm not having fun, then usually I don't play well. But Metallica's got a bit better with the mini wizard mode that's in there now. Crank it up.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, Lyman deserves a lot of credit for some really awesome rules he's putting in Stern games. And I think a lot of the work he's done has really made a lot of those games something special. And I think Metallica is turning into one of those machines. But yeah, I wasn't looking forward to playing that for game 3 because the thing that I don't like about Metallica is to succeed, you're forced to shoot Sparky. Like, you can't get away from it. And it's such a risky shot. If you don't get the right bounces or the rubbers flick the ball the wrong way, you can just get some powered out lanes. And, we saw that happen to a bunch of the other players in that group. Josh got hit with that and Zach on a couple occasions in that finals game. And that's just the type of stuff that I wasn't looking forward to having to try and avoid.
When you got to test the game, because at the Papa Finals, I know everyone gets 30 seconds on a machine, what were you looking for on Metallica?
Yeah, testing games in Papa Finals is a little bit sketchy sometimes. There's kind of this zone between you get 5 seconds to a minute to test on it, even though it's supposed to be 30 seconds, because sometimes the guy in front of you, his balls are draining already, or the game's restarting or something, and you lose half your practice time waiting for the game to reboot. And I didn't get that much time on Metallica, and so all I got to do to test on it was test the tilt, which is pretty much all I really care about on Metallica anyways. I mean, you can feel out the shots on Stern games for some reason better than you can on Bally Williams, and I think that's because a lot of the shots are less punishing in a way. If you shoot Sparky, the ball's going to come back and go crazy. So no need to test that.
Exactly.
And I think I got one shot off and nailed the snake during practice. And it was like, great, the snake sticks. That's good. Other than that, you don't really get any more time. And those two things are great going in. I know that at least sometimes a snake shot will stay, which is good. It's not completely fruitless to go after your Attaballs. And if you know where the tilt is, you can get away with a couple good moves. And that one was set up nice. It would let you get away with one big thing, which is always good. So if you're getting really housed by the game, you can really just save it once and take a danger or two.
Backing up to the day before, going into the Sunday last year, what was going through your head the night before? I mean, were you rooming by yourself? Did you have a significant other with you? What was that night before the finals at Papa 17 like?
Oh, it was great. I was rooming with Adam Lefkoff and his son Escher.
Yep,
they're great travel companions, and Escher, a very young player, who's a great kid.
I beat him at Star Trek once, by the way. That's sort of a running theme on this show.
It's actually impressive because I'm not sure that if I were to play Escher on Star Trek that I would be able to beat him.
I'll never play him again, ever, ever, ever. And he did want revenge and played Big Bang Bar against me later, and I think he completed the game as I struggled to score 20 million, just to make sure I knew who was really king there. But yeah, those are great guys to room with. Great, and Adam's a great guy to talk about stuff with.
They're awesome.
I'm sure.
Me and Adam just love, just pouring over the minutia of rules, strategies, and game picks, and dissecting games. And so it's fun thinking about that stuff. And I mean, night before, I've been to Papa. Last year was my 9th year going to Papa, and maybe the 8th time I'd made finals. Sorry, not 8th time. It's been 8th time I'd made finals in A. It's a lot of years to add up in your brain.
Yeah.
So, going into a finals day at Papa, my biggest concern is going to bed on time.
Yeah, I bet you can sit up all night talking about what you're going to do, and you need to actually rest.
Well,
to
not
go
only
do it.
that, I guess I've played enough tournaments, and it even feels weird with Papa that I've gone there enough where night before finals, I'm not so amped and adrenaline from the excitement of going into finals that it affects me being able to go to sleep anymore. I remember the first time I qualified for A, I'd probably got like an hour of sleep because I was, so excited that I had finally, qualified for that, and it was just keeping me up. And last year I was super excited that I qualified for A, but it wasn't giving me quite the same adrenaline rush.
Sure.
And you always want to stay at Papa and watch the awesome last-minute qualifying that's going on. There's so much cool stuff, but you have to pull yourself away if you're already in and try and get some rest, because that's going to really help.
I was looking back at past results to try and find what your sort of path to world champion was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I found Papa 9 in 2006. Was that your first Papa tournament?
That was my first Papa tournament. Yeah, Papa 9, and I played B because I'd never really been to a big tournament before, or pretty much any tournament before.
So that was really early days for you in tournament play.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing pinball for a long time, since like high school, mid-90s, and playing when all of the Williams games came out. And in college, I played a ton, and I tried to organize a little competition there, which never panned out. And when I moved to Seattle, I was like, maybe there's more stuff out there. And I saw Papa. I was like, this is great. And so I went out there, and I was like, I'll try B, and I'll see what this is about. And I totally, didn't think I was going to qualify at all. And on my last ticket, I was like, I didn't make it in. And then I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone, and I was like, oh, you made it in, you qualified. I'm like, what? And I looked at the standings, and magically it was 14th. So I think probably at those days I was probably voiding entries that were probably good. I don't know.
Last year was my first time playing a Papa, and it is a little confusing on what you should do and how you should go about it to someone who's never been there. So I think it's an interesting look at your progression through the years.
You got to think of yourself as a coach, and every time you qualify, you're putting a new player in the ring. And really, it's in your best interest to just let each one of those players just see where the chips fall. Voiding is just not really going to get you as much mileage as putting all your scores in are. But really, I think my personal secret to success at qualifying for Papa is coming Thursday and not caring about anything else, Thursday being the first day of Papa, but qualifying and trying to do that, because there's so many exciting things going on at Papa. There's mini tournaments. There's all these friends you don't see very often that you get to talk with. There's classics tournaments, and those are all big, giant, awesome distractions. But I would happily do none of those things if it would give me a good shot at qualifying in the A bank at Papa. And so I usually spend all day Thursday trying to qualify, nothing but, so that the other days of Papa, when I go and play classics, or I go and hang out with people, or I go and play some mini tournaments, I'm not sitting there thinking, man, I wish I spent more time trying to qualify in A if I never made it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my way of approaching it.
How many qualifying runs did it take for you last year to get to where you wanted to be?
Last year, I think it took me maybe 5 or 6, which is below my average. The last 4 years before that, I qualified on my 10th entry every time.
Wow.
I think. maybe ninth. I'm not sure why that is. I think that's because I don't really care until the end of Thursday. I realize that time is dwindling and I might as well start playing well or something. Like the motivation goes up because I want to go to sleep.
Yeah. Do you look at a bank and sort of already know the games that you want to try and qualify on, or will you move around based on how you're performing on any individual game?
Yeah, I'll definitely look at a bank and look through all the different games and think to myself, okay, what are the games that I'm going to pick? And you're thinking about, uh, basically which games are going to screw you the least. At least that's how I feel. And also, which games, when you're inevitably going to get screwed on a ball or two, or things aren't just going to go right, that you haven't totally ruined your options of having a decent score. I mean, there's a lot of games where you're down a bunch of balls and you're just like, crap, like I'm like in jail or something, like Whitewater, for example. Like, it's a great game and I might pick it in a tournament, but if you just get boned on balls 1 and 2 and you don't have any progress on your locks, then you're spending ball 3 shooting all these death targets after you try and set up like 5x playfield or something cool to go with it. And that really sucks. Where you're playing some kind of modern Stern game where every multi-ball's a party. That's way better. At least I think.
When you say that, I remember Adam Lefkoff saying something to me very clearly last year. He said, no, that's a one-ball game. You got this. And I don't remember who said that to me or somebody else, but I think that rings true. Some of the games out there, you can blow up and put a big score up on one single ball if you have house balls.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, I mean, it can go a little bit in the reverse. Like, you look at Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's a one-ball game for slightly different reasons. Like, I mean, once you get your compass to award max jackpot value, that's the ball on which you need to execute. And if you don't, you're going to chop wood for about 10 times as long. So it's definitely a one-ball game there until you pull the trigger. But those can be really good choices as well, because if you are careful about the way in which you execute a certain strategy, you can guarantee that you get the opportunity to do the thing, and then it's all up to your execution of it.
When you're in qualifying mode at a tournament like Papa, where it's kind of a long run of qualifying, do you feel like you're playing the machines, playing yourself, or playing the opponents around you who are also trying to put up the scores?
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever playing the opponents around me. And I mean, just as an aside, a lot of people start qualifying in a tournament of the style of Papa, and you need to get a good sense for how good your run is, And for me, I guess when I'm qualifying there, I'm more playing against myself because I think I have a good sense of what my capabilities are. So when I finish a game, I'm never looking at the score and then going over to the standings and looking at everybody else's score and being like, wow, it's in 5th place. That must be good. I'm thinking, wow, how did I do? I'm like, well, that game only lasted 5 minutes, and I felt like I could really do a lot more. It's probably not that great of a score. That's what I'm thinking to myself.
Interesting.
And for some reason, that usually seems to pan out well. Like, I've usually been able to guesstimate my own Papa standings on Thursday, what they'll pan out on the end of Sunday within a couple places. It's like, that feels like about a 14th, or that feels like a 6th place, or that feels like a top 3 type of entry. For me, it's just about thinking, how could I have done any better? Did I blow it up for myself? And if I did, then it's like, well, no worth use trying that again. I might as well try and do that every time because that was great.
Do you find yourself chasing the higher qualifying spots, or do you just want to get in and deal with it once you get into the quarterfinal rounds?
No, I guess there's kind of two sides to it. All I want to do is qualify, and as Josh Sharp and Zach Sharp have said, just make the dance, because once you're there, then anything can happen. So as long as you qualify, it's great. I mean, things change up recently so that now there's buys, and although it's basically like being where you were a couple of years ago in Papa when there was no buys, a buy in the World Championships is a pretty big deal. So I think it's worth pressing for top 8 because of that. But that's kind of a relatively new thing at Papa. And And so, yeah, I don't really find myself pushing for better position unless I feel like my best entry is in jeopardy of getting knocked out in the whole tournament. However, I am a glutton for punishment, and I do love playing in a tournament way more than playing any other type of pinball. So while it only took me maybe 6 entries to qualify last year, it's possible I played 20. I don't know. I just kept playing afterwards, even though I knew that run was good enough, because it's awesome. I don't know. It's great to just like play in the A bank and just try and crush it and play some good games and try and compete against everybody else, and it's a blast.
So as you move into the slotted quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, how keenly aware of your competitors are you? I mean, the A Bank, the A Division at Papa is a pretty select group of guys, and we don't see a huge variation from, say, the top 30, that get close. How are you looking at the bracket you put into, or are you looking at each guy's strengths and weaknesses at all, or are you just more thinking about your game and your machine?
I think I'm thinking more about my game. I mean, one thing that's always interesting about the bracket is that there's so many good players in pinball. And while the people that qualify at Papa may be usually from a handful, there are some new faces you see in there, people that are really good. And there's a lot of old faces too. And you can kind of look through the standings and look at it and say, wow, like who is playing hot right now? Who would I expect to go far in this tournament? And it's really funny sometimes when a lot of those people in your mind are all stacked on the same side of the bracket. So sometimes you end up in a group and, wow, maybe all 4 of these players, or the other 3 players, you're thinking, wow, they should all be going to finals and only 2 of us are moving on. How's this going to pan out?
Yeah, there was a lot of that last year, I thought.
Yeah, and in those situations, you're thinking like, wow, this is going to be a tough group, but then you're thinking, this is an opportunity where you can just put your boot down and squash some good players out of the tournament for good. I mean, if you can get your work done, or at least some of the hard work done, in the first round or the second round rather than the final 4, how great is that?
We all saw Roy Wills put up this like amazing qualifying ticket that sort of blew everybody away, and we all know Roy's great, but that ticket was pretty awesome, and he didn't make it out of the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for playing under different conditions. Playing a tournament is an actual skill outside of playing pinball. Just the act of being in competition. And so I'm not sure what, Roy has qualified very well quite a few times. And, I think on the times he's qualified the best is the times that he's left in the first round. And I'm not sure why that is, but maybe it's just, bad luck. Everybody's had plenty of weird bounces at Papa, and there's all sorts of things can go wrong. But maybe he's just more comfortable in a different type of environment, It's not clear how that happens. But he's an amazing player, so I wouldn't expect that to always be the case where he's
no, I think that the more times he's there, the closer he's going to get to get into the Final Four. I was looking at your run last year, and in your quarterfinal run, you had Zach Sharp, Keith Johnson, Carl D'Angelo in your group, and you got 4 points on all the machines. So you had the best score on all 3 machines, and kind of blew through and easily got to the semis. And then in the semifinals, if it wasn't for your friend the Alien Star, you had the top scores on Addams Family and Metallica there, but it was Alien Star that kind of bit you. But I wouldn't say you did it with ease, but just looking at the scores, I felt like watching it live, like, wow, he's sort of breezing through these early rounds. Did you have that feeling?
In the semifinals with Zach and
Keith
Bowen
and Keith. Bowen. Yeah, it's like, could you choose 3 harder players?
We played Cactus Canyon, and we played Alien Star, and then we played Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh, I was reading the wrong. It was Cactus Canyon, Johnny Mnemonic, and Alien Star. I'm sorry, I had my scores wrong.
No, that's all right. And so
you actually did have your best score on Alien Star there. It was Cactus Canyon you didn't win, and Johnny Mnemonic correct. You got the 4. I'm sorry, I was reading that list wrong.
Yeah, and I was feeling really good on Cactus. I had just played it the round before against Keith Kiefer and Carl, and I like Cactus Canyon a lot because it kind of plays to gameplay that I like, which is kind of picking something that's repeatable and then just grinding it out. Generally something that requires some skill, but nonetheless, on Cactus, just shooting bonus multipliers is my cup of tea. So, I felt that out and was feeling really good at it. And then I kind of lost some of my shots in the semifinals. So Cactus didn't quite work out the way I wanted, which was too bad. But, on Alien Star, Bowen kind of, had an unfortunate break where he tilted through.
Yeah,
and
he did.
That was perhaps kind of a nice little cherry for our group. But I was feeling really strong, I felt good about my previous round. I felt good about all the games we were getting picked on. I'd felt them all out in the practice round pretty well. Alien Star was the same one that was the same exact machine that was used in Pinball Expo. So, that machine plays great, and all the shots were hitting exactly the same, even though this time it didn't have super bands on it, which was good. So, it was just like, well, let's just do this. Like, I know how to play these games, and playing against good players, and we'll see how it pans out.
Your score on Alien Star, because I don't want to let this get lost here, was 3.3 something million in the semifinals, and the second place score was 197,000 by Zach Sharp.
Yeah, and I got totally ripped off by a couple spinner shots that probably would have pushed it to about 6 million because the code is bad in that game.
It should have been better.
There was this funny moment if you watch the video of the Papa broadcast where it felt so great in the tournament because I had this crushing spinner shot that pushed me up to about 2 million, and then I hit another alley pass and crushed the spinner twice in a row, but the lamp or the 10x multiplier was timing out from the previous shots.
Oh,
and
no.
It doesn't re-up the timer when you shoot the inlane again. So I ended up getting all these spins that were at zero value, and I'm waving my hands around trying to figure out what was going on. But it was kind of funny. It's funny when you come across things like that and while you're playing, and then you're like, oh yeah, maybe I should slow down a little bit and take my time because I'm not getting any points.
That's funny. Speaking of shatzing and alley passing there, those are, I think, to a player like me, that's a risky move, and it's something that you're very adept at. And there's other things, whether it's live catching or drop catching, the more high level, high skill moves. Do you go into a tournament like Papa with full control of that and no fear and just fully expecting to use all those skills, or do you play it safe in any way with your technique?
I think the only technique you really have to be careful with in pinball is a tap pass. But tap passes are a lot like alley passes in that you really have to jump in feet first, and you can't kind of half-ass it or kind of try it a little bit, or else it's definitely going to face plant and you're going to fail. With a tap pass, you're hitting the flipper button ever so slightly, usually on a much older game. And that's creating a little electrical interruption where the flipper's just going to twitch and toss the ball from one side to the other. And when you're doing that, you can mess that up and not flip at all and just dump the ball in the drain. And so there you definitely have a risk of that happening if you haven't felt the machine out enough. But it's usually something you can figure out through a little practice while the ball's in the shooter lane. All the other techniques, though, alley passing, live catching, post passing, dead flipping, all that stuff. The risk you take in making those maneuvers and shooting those shots is about the same risk as missing another type of shot in the game, just breaking a post on the side of a ramp. The recovery is about the same. So as long as you're expecting that there's this chance when you shoot an alley pass that you might hit the bottom of the slingshot and it might come back such that you have to flip the opposite side flipper really fast. As long as you're expecting that could happen, then you're going to be able to meet that challenge when you mess up.
So after the finals of 17 and you win the trophy, you take out both Sharp brothers and Joshua Henderson, who played amazing, played fantastic, and he was a joy to watch.
Yeah, he played great.
It was awesome, awesome watching him play. You go home with this trophy. Do you sit back at some point and think, okay, I'm the world champion. I am arguably the best pinball player on the planet. Does that go through your head?
Not really, because I've played with that same group of players so much. It's nice being king for a day. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But things don't feel any different. I'm super excited and super happy to have won Papa, and it's great to be the champ there. And it's something I've always wanted. Papa to me has always been, maybe the Super Bowl or the World Series of pinball.
Absolutely.
And I won IFPA a couple of years ago, and that was amazing. And winning Papa was also amazing, and it was different because it's something that I had been chasing for longer, I think. And I don't really think of it as a validation or anything of that respect, but it felt good to be able to be challenged in that way and then be able to rise to the occasion. I don't think you get many opportunities to do that and actually succeed in competitive life. And so I think that was the most rewarding thing for me after Papa was that feeling of finally rising to that challenge.
It's awesome. It's in the history books. It'll never be forgotten. I think that's fantastic. What does that do to you going into this year's Papa 18? Do you feel some sort of pressure now? Is there a monkey on your back? Everyone's going to be looking at your back while you're playing saying, that's Cayley George. He won this thing last year.
Well, odds are this will probably be the only year I never qualify at Papa, just because,
I wouldn't bet on that.
So we'll see. You never know. I don't think it changes anything. It doesn't make me cocky or confident either way. It's funny, every year I go to Papa, I don't think I'm going to qualify. That might seem really strange to people. But absolutely, like every year I'm like, this is the year, like this is going to be so tough. I'm not going to do it. Like, and I'm always also like stressed out or whatever. And then, luckily enough, the last few years I've dropped a bomb on Thursday. It's such a tough competition, and the way you qualify is so difficult that, I'm still not even confident that I'll be able to make it in this year. So I'm excited to be able to go through the whole process again because it's one of the best tournaments in the world.
Speaking of the tournament and the format, it's not the only tournament out there with this style format, but it's definitely the highest profile and the largest. What do you do when you're in qualifying rounds and you have a 5-game ticket, let's say, and you have a really bad first game? You just don't do what you need to do. Do you feel like the ticket's broken and you just go into practice mode? Do you try and just eke out top scores on the rest of the ticket? What's your approach there?
Oh, it's interesting. If you're playing in classics, I'll actually void the entry off the first game if it's a 0.
Yeah.
Sometimes the classics lines are so long that's not even worth your time because you're putting yourself at such a deficit with a 4-game set.
Yep.
But since we're talking about the A division, if you throw a donut on game 1, it's pretty tough. Like, that's going to be like eating you the whole entry because if you have a good game and another good game and another good game, when you're going into that 5th game, you're sitting there thinking, man, I wish I was on game 4. Like,
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll change it up. Like if I really just bone the first game, sometimes I'll switch all the other games in that set to my alternate picks. Like usually I've picked like 5 ponies for Papa qualifying. Like these are the 5 games that I think are going to be really good. These are the games that I think, are the ones that I should be qualifying on for various reasons. And if I just, bone the first one and I know it's going to bleed out to nothing or it already is nothing, I might as well throw some games into the other 5 games that are remaining there that wasn't going to be choosing. There's a good reason for that. One, sometimes I'm making mistakes about what I'm choosing and I'm not feeling the other games out enough. So it's kind of like research. It's like, oh, wow, like I didn't know that this Godzilla played this awesome. Like I should be picking this instead.
Sure.
So maybe the next round I pick that. Or it's just like, well, if I have like kind of a medium entry, even if it's not good enough, I can totally submit it because there's no way I'll hurt my scores on my good set later down the way, and I'll definitely maybe hurt some scores from some other people.
So that is where you can sort of play against the field in that regard. You can try and push everybody down a spot or two.
Yeah, like if my qualifying run is done, like if my 5-game set is ruined in some respect, maybe I've played 4 games and then I realize there's nothing I can do with the 5th game. there's definitely a reason to use that for good for yourself. Either use it to feel out something specific on the game you wanted to play. Like you're like, oh man, like I don't really know where this shot is on Adam's Family. I guess I'm just gonna shoot thing like this whole game, just burn it on learning a shot. Or you could be like, wow, that Surf and Safari, I don't have that in my run, but I think I could do pretty good, and maybe if I drop a bomb, I'll kind of like mess everybody else's scores up. So go ahead and play Surf and Safari, and then you might actually figure out you like it, and you're going to start picking it the whole time.
So I want to kind of transition looking into 18 and looking at the games, if you don't mind. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the announced A Division games, and these are, just for everybody, these are tentative. These can change, and I guess I think we have to start off with Orbiter 1, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's kidding. A red herring that's been thrown out there.
I think that's really funny, though, that he even threw it out there.
Yeah, Orbiter 1's actually pretty amusing. It'd be great if it was in a bank, but they were taking... There's a special display on Orbiter 1 that tracks your ball time, because even the designers knew on that game how that thing was, and that just keeping the ball in play was a challenge. So the fact that there was a ball time counter on that would be a great...
I think we should probably have the top 4 qualifiers for A every year have to play a tournament on Orbiter 1 for like $100 or something. I think that would be actually a lot of entertainment value out of that. So if we do look at the actual games that we know that are coming, it's interesting. You have Mustang and The Walking Dead both in the lineup, 2 of the latest, most fresh new Stern games out there. What are your thoughts on Mustang and Walking Dead?
Yeah, that's tough. So I think Mustang is a really tough pick to put in your qualifying run. Something I wouldn't initially put in my pick of 5. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Start off, I don't like the game.
Yeah.
But that's not a big influence. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
It's not terribly fun for me. So Mustang, you can press all the way to 5th gear in multi-ball, or is it 6th gear? 6th gear. And then your first super jackpot is at 50 million. And if you can get 2x scoring going, you can crack off 100 million on the first super, that multi-ball, so about 10 seconds in. And that's a pretty sizable amount of points for Mustang. That's, if you do that, then it's a top score-ish, if you have a good game otherwise. So that really means that, like, over the course of qualifying in A, over the course of 3 days, there's going to be people that do that, and that's kind of the thing, something that you either go all in on or not. And once you do, you either do it or you don't. And when you don't, you can't really do it again. You can't try it again. And that's really tough. That means that, like, on any given qualifying run, there's only pretty much one way that you're probably going to be able to get a top 10 score on that machine. And the likelihood of failure is high. So that's something that I don't like to put in a qualifying run, where you can't sit there and be like, I'll chop wood and just like kick some ass on this game and get a really good score. Like, there's something that you have to do there, and that's really tough.
Yeah, very specific set of things to do, and that will be interesting to watch. I think that'll be a fun one to watch, and I know I have to call my shot. Josh Henderson will have the top qualifying score on Mustang, is I think my prediction for that game.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, he's extremely talented with all the modern Sterns, and he seems to have an affinity for Mustang.
Yeah, I think he owns it.
Another part of Mustang too is then, you're baited into going for the super skill shot where you hold the flipper and plunge all the way around.
Yep.
A little live trap, and then you can push yourself instantly to third gear right off the plunge. But depending what the ball save is set up, hopefully it's off on that game in Papa A Bank. You've got some pretty high risk there for what you really need to do to get a good qualifying score. So, that one, Mustang, definitely out of my lineup.
That one's off. Okay, very good. Yeah. So, what about The Walking Dead? Have you spent some good time on The Walking Dead? I know I saw you play it.
By the way, when we go through this list, I may end up where there's only one game on my list. I'm not sure.
I was kind of wondering if you're going to actually X off every single game. And
Walking Dead's interesting. The code has fluxed on that game a lot from the times that I've played it. And I'm not confident on Walking Dead to say that I can play it better than somebody else can, at least strategy-wise. I think I can surely play a competent qualifying strategy on it, but it's kind of a goofy game. It doesn't. The shots are kind of weird. The necessity to multiply your playfield at all times with the 2x shot.
With those little stand-up targets on the sides of the prison.
Yeah, and the shot that you actually shoot to go around to the prison tower there to start your 2x is really tight. And if you can't find that shot, it can be pretty tough. And you got to shoot really some kind of, put the ball out of control stuff like the prison and the well guy to really start getting into anything there. That's really tough to have in a qualifying Papa run where you walk up to that game and you say, okay, sure, I can do this, but first I've got to, put 7 death shots into the prison.
Yeah.
It's like if you're counting on that game to qualify you and the shot you're making is putting the ball out of control and that's what you have to do, like that's really hard. Like those games aren't for me in qualifying.
Okay, so a game that I think you may say is for you is the return of Cactus Canyon.
Cactus Canyon, absolutely. I think that's a great pick. I mean, all the shots there are going to put the ball back on the flipper, essentially.
In the collector world and sort of the hobbyist world that I talk about a lot, that's a game that is, obviously highly regarded because of its rarity, but it's also talked about a lot as having incomplete code, and there's a project ongoing to kind of finish out the code. How does that play into the game as a tournament game?
I think everybody's crazy. Like, like the things that and this is a broad statement, but like kind of what I would consider like the more collector side of the community, the things they get all like in a bunch about, like just make me chuckle sometimes. I mean, yes, Cactus has incomplete code. There's like a couple sound files missing, and there's like no animation for the match or no sound. I mean, like it's all these little things where like they don't mean anything.
It shouldn't really impact your enjoyment of the game.
It's like oh man, like this bulb that lights up the back glass wasn't programmed to turn on. Like it's incomplete. It's terrible. Like give me a break. Like I do think there's lots of cool stuff in Cactus Canyon Continued, but I don't think it's like wow, you like fixed all the bugs. I mean, isn't there like an alternate wizard mode and all this other stuff? It's all the stuff that like Bally Williams talked about maybe having or alluded to with the like robotic Bart and all that stuff, but. I mean, things are cut all the time from games and software production. And, you never know what doesn't ship. And I think it's an awesome game as is. I'm not really sitting there yearning like, oh, man, I really wish that, like, this showdown was better or something. It's like,
sure.
It's fine.
Sure.
It works great.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah.
What about the Simpsons Pinball Party as a A-Bank qualifying game?
I think
they're going to have to set that up a certain way, right? Or we're going to
excited about Simpsons. It's not really my favorite game. In fact, it's a game I just don't enjoy. Simpsons can be really tough to get everything going on, and something strange about Simpsons just for me is I don't like the way the mechanics feel on that game. For whatever reason, it's kind of from this like weird little era of Stern games where something is just terribly wrong with the flippers, in my opinion. I don't know what it is because I think it has all the same hardware in it. I'm not sure if it's the board set or something. But
I know exactly what you're talking about, and it is that era. Yeah, it is that era of game.
It's like something got really awesome with Pirates of the Caribbean, like where the flippers got great, and then like some games they got kind of weird and bad again, like around NASCAR and CSI, and then they got great again with NBA of all games.
Yeah,
and then it's like there's weird ups and downs, but it's definitely not like specific machines that I played. It's like the whole run, like there's something like awkward about it, and I've never been able to pin my finger on it. But Simpsons is really one of the games that I don't like because of that, and I have a really hard time transitioning to play on Simpsons from other machines. So I usually don't like to pick it because it seems to really throw off my shots when I first start playing in a run, and then it throws off the shots of the following game in the same run.
That's interesting. That's great to hear. That's some deep insight. I like it.
Simpsons plays really long a lot.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Putting the best players in the world on Simpsons, I'm expecting to see like old school tiny flippers on it or something. Like, what are they going to do to this thing?
It very well could be. I mean, it very well could be like Batman: The Dark Knight in A-Bank a couple years ago, where it's really, really hard. It's set up with lightning flippers, which I love, but they're tough, and outline posts out and all sorts of stuff where it's just like so brutal. And that could be really hard. I mean, time will tell when we go to Papa in a couple of weeks.
What about? I thought kind of an interesting pick for the bank was Lost in Space.
Lost in Space. I'm so going to pick that.
Is that going to be one of your games?
Absolutely. I don't even know the game that well. I know it well enough, but it's the Goofy game, and I always loved the Goofy game in the bank. Like, I just loved that Surf and Safari was in there last year. It was so awesome. It's like one of my favorite games, and it happens to be one of those weird, like Trap Anything trademark Flipper Gottliebs. But yeah, like Lost in Space is in the same, kind of category for me, because it's just like weird and strange and goofy, and you're like spelling robot in condition red and all this other stuff. And I think it's going to be, I don't know, I think it's going to be fun to play. And, not many people know how to play it, so that's always good. And so, yeah, I think that's a really exciting pick. Although, I'd probably trade it for an Attack from Mars any day.
Sure. John Board Game. I don't know if a lot of people realize that.
Oh yeah, I have no idea. I had no idea who designed that.
Yep, John Board. What about CSI? You mentioned CSI is sort of from that era that you don't like. So does that sort of eliminate CSI?
Well, no. I mean, it feels a little weird, but CSI is great. It's a good game. Mark has mentioned, I think, perhaps even on your show here, that he has bastardized the in-lane outlane switches.
Yep.
And I'm a little disappointed because after Pinburg, or Papa, about a year or two ago, I revealed to Mark that we were able to max out the bonus X in CSI before we actually started the first ball. And he kind of flipped out because he was like, I wanted to put that in name bank now, you bastards. Like, we're never going to do it. And so I'm a little disappointed he actually kind of manipulated the machine to fix that, because it's a great exploit. It's like so amazing. And now it's gone.
It's gone. But
the game itself is great. For competition, you have some really cool multi-balls. You got this crazy little horseshoe on the right for the microscope, and you've got the weird centrifuge and skull multi-ball. And that's a great game to just kind of grind stuff out on.
Yeah.
Going back to what I was talking about before, where, kind of on any ball you can kind of, do some damage. Like, it's a great game for that. If you have two balls that just kind of power out lane, you're like, damn, well, you're probably set up really close to easy multi-balls so you can get your skull going and then, like, get some centrifuge going, and you just blow that multi-ball up, you're going to have some good points and some good bonus multiplier, and all this great stuff's going to happen. So I think it's
and
a
I
really
feel like
good
that's
choice.
a game where there's lots of different shots too, that you could find yourself, like, if something's not working for you, you could switch up your ideas of how to score.
Yeah, it is. There are a lot of different shots in the game, and I think it's a good game because players really need to manage all those different features of the game, and it'll be really interesting to see what players are shooting and not shooting on that specific CSI and Papa A Bank, because sometimes the microscope is deadly, sometimes not. Sometimes you can backhand it, sometimes not. Sometimes you want to use the little upper flipper that's like the camera flipper or whatever it's called, and sometimes not. It's kind of like an Addams Family in that way. Like, which flippers are you dead flipping with? Which ones are you actually making the thing type shots with? And which multi-balls are you grinding at which times? And what's the drop out of the centrifuge like? Is it going straight down the middle, or is it easy? All that stuff's like cool to figure out in a live setting.
Do you like to, when there's a game, especially where shots can possibly be backhanded and that could play a large part of your strategy on the game, do you like to get in there early on Thursday and put your money down and get in on that game to find it out for yourself, or do you stand back and watch some other players and kind of have the discussion behind them, if that's possible?
It depends. Like, it really depends on the player you're asking. Like, there's a few players out there, I won't even name names, who I'll be like, oh man, can you backhand like that shot? Or can you post pass? And you're like, no way, man. That chair's unbackhandable, man. That Addams Family, you can never back. I don't know what's wrong with it. And then you're like, oh, like, man, I should stay away from that. I'll get, I'll play it a little different way. And then like 3 games in or qualifying runs in, you realize that like, the chair's like the easiest thing you've ever shot.
And
like,
they've been backhanding it the whole time?
That person is just an idiot. Like, or just like, yeah, if you can hit it, you can hit it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, people have different ideas about what you can and can't do in games. And yes, they're not idiots, but like some people just have different skill sets, very widely different skill sets. Not saying that I'm better at backhanding than somebody else, but I might be better at backhanding the chair on atoms than somebody that I'm talking to. So those types of things are tough to kind of have in discussions. So I think you definitely want to try everything on a game when you sit down and you're in a run and you're actually playing, to find out for yourself what you can and can't do. But there's other players that you feel like your skills may align better with. And then, some of their information I might trust a little bit more.
What about Black Rose?
Black Rose is a funny game. I haven't had a lot of time on that. I know Raymond Davidson from Seattle, a really strong young player, is going to be super excited that's in the A Bank because he used to own one of those and play nothing but Black Rose for from him, it's like 5 years old till he was 19 or something. So I think that's going to be his pick.
Yeah.
But I there's things that I don't like about Black Rose, which is it'll be interesting to see how much topology is going on that like cannon that revolves right in the center.
Yep.
It's kind of like an even worse version of the Congo and Creature window, where there's like so many more lumps that the ball can do weird things.
Yeah,
on.
exactly. Change its route.
Yeah, so like that's an unknown. Of course, you can feel it out. Maybe it's great, maybe not. But a bad Black Rose can like have the ball like cutting left to right across the play field and then like hit the cannon and then go like straight down or something.
Yeah.
Which really sucks. But then you've also just got the weird thing where you're like shooting stuff out of the cannon and like it comes out of the back part of the play field down this wire form and gets kicked over to the other flipper. But every once in a while that kickover can be kind of weird, like with flipper hops and strange things. I'm not excited to play Black Rose or feel it out because it's kind of just has all these kind of goofy things about it that just are so gimmicky that it doesn't make it very comfortable to play for me.
Totally. And what do we have left? I think we have 2 left here. Medusa, classic game. Very cool game.
Yeah, let's see. Well, Medusa's a fun classics game, but I don't really think that classics have any business being in the A Bank.
Really? Okay. That's a firm statement. Let's hear your thoughts there. I'd love to go down that road.
I don't know. I kind of feel like when a tournament has a classics bank and then a non-classics bank, I think there's kind of good incentive there to not mix those together. If in one way you're trying to decide who's the best at the older games, then I think then that leaves the rest of the games as something that you're challenging people with. And so for me, it's not a game I'm really interested in playing in my qualifying run. One of the reasons just being that as a classics game, it kind of plays like a classics game where your ball times are shorter. There's a bit more risk in every single shot you're taking, and you have less control over the outcome of the ball. Like hitting your shots isn't guaranteeing, consistent returns to flippers, things like that. And so, a lot of things seem to be left more up to the bounce of the ball and what appears to be random chance in the game, more than I would say a modern game like CSI would.
So I would think you feel the same way about Space Shuttle then.
I'd put Space Shuttle at a slightly tier above, and I'll actually probably be picking that because
repeatable ramp shot.
Yeah, well, you got some geometry there that you can control. Like Space Station will absolutely benefit the player who can dead pass, who can do drop catches or flip catches on the fly, who can do live traps, and because of the way that there's no in lanes, but because of the way the flippers are aligned.
Yep.
And so, you can really grind through multi-balls and the stop and score feature on that game with a lot more control than you can grind out like the left orbit on Medusa. And then playing around with zipper flippers and cracking targets and picking up the little bonus collect hole up top. Like, once you're out of there, the ball is just going crazy, which is way different than it feels in a game like Space Station.
Space Station, I said Shuttle, and it is Station.
Space Shuttle being a much older game, and I would definitely put that closer to the category of Medusa. But Space Station is going to be an A-Bank.
Yes.
It's a pretty good game. I think it's great.
Excellent. jumping sort of more back to you in your personal life, you've recently moved from the Seattle area where you sort of made your name in the pinball scene, and you've moved to Europe. Tell me about that, and tell me how that's going to affect how you play pinball competitively for the next year or two, forever.
Yeah, I'm in the Netherlands right now. I've moved here. I've got a new job here, and I'm working out of Amsterdam and living in Utrecht. And I don't think it will really have any impact on kind of how I play competitively, or kind of how I'm doing competitively. There's so many large tournaments in Europe, and there's a lot of really good players out here who I used to only get to play, maybe once a year in the IFPA World Championships. And so now I have, much easier access to traveling to some of the neighboring countries and playing against a lot of the really great European players in some really awesome events. And I think I may even have more opportunities for competitive pinball out here than I had in Seattle. Who knows? So I think it's really exciting to be out here and, have access to events like Dutch Pinball Open and, the big events in Sweden and the UK Pinball Party and events like that. I think would be really, really exciting to go play.
Yeah, I know there's currently, I want to say 3 Swedish players in the top 20 on the IFPA, World Pinball Player Rankings right now. So we are seeing that international flavor really, start to have an even larger presence than it did. And I think most of the pinball players on the competitive scene in Europe all sort of had to shake their head a little bit when they saw Kaylee George is moving to their to their neck of the world.
No, I don't know. I mean, I imagine they feel the same way. I mean, it's there's nothing more fun than playing against, players that are amazing or better than you. And that's how I feel coming out here. Like, I'm really excited to play against those guys because a lot of them are so good. I always learn stuff from playing them, and that's what makes it really fun for me. Is seeing all these different styles of play and learning new little things from players and being challenged, and that's what makes again events like Papa really great because you have a huge crowd of very talented people come, and you really get to play with the best.
What are your thoughts on creating both celebrities out of pinball, players and personalities, and sort of building up pinball as a spectator sport or event as we move forward and see the hobby grow?
I don't think it's possible. I'm just being a realist. I think the only way that pinball hits mainstream is through a reality show, and where the main focus of the show is caricatures of the players. I mean, every reality show generally isn't about the show's name or the topic. Sure. It's about the people in it. And so I think that's the only way that pinball would ever hit mainstream. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure what I think about that. I think that it would be awesome if pinball somehow was more mainstream, if it had, more sponsorship or more people watching it. I think, kind of any publicity is good publicity for pinball, as long as everybody takes it with a grain of salt and
sure.
Realizes that it's all for good fun. But I don't think it's realistic to think that pinball will ever be a broadcast sport like the World Series of Poker. Like that is. That'll never happen.
Somebody was writing me and telling me how big darts has gotten in England specifically. And
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Blew my mind, and I thought, man, if
it's a 9-darter, yes, or whatever exactly. They say, and they start flipping out. It's probably 7 darts. I don't know.
And I think, man, that is so boring compared to pinball. But pinball's one of the disadvantages is it just takes a long time to play it out.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things going against it, but you can't. You cannot show pinball in a way that people can understand. Period.
Yeah, no, I think that's
people
a great
are not going to be able to sit down and look at pinball and say, that's great, that's exciting, and then crack open the potato chips and sit there for another hour. They're just going to be like, what? And then
another 7 hours.
Yeah, I mean, sports like legitimate sports that are on the surface, way easier to have a spectator audience or a broadcast audience have failed miserably. Look at paintball. I mean, there's something where people are, potentially on a very structured course. They're running around and shooting at each other, and you can get broad shots of a team doing things and close shots, and there's action and excitement, and the games are really short, and you can watch the same type of thing over and over again, and the premise is really clear, like shoot the other guy and he's out. And paintball's never been able to gain any sort of mainstream traction. And it's way easier to describe that as a sport to somebody than pinball.
I guess I want to close, and man, I really thank you for coming on the show. I've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah, it's been great.
But I want to close with one kind of question, a little broader for you, because you are the reigning, defending, Papa World Champion. What currently drives you when you wake up and you think about pinball? When you're not thinking about work, when you're thinking about pinball, and you're thinking about coming to Papa or any other tournament, really, is it just the game? Does money play into it at all? What's driving Kaylee George right now to take part in pinball?
Money, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a net negative.
Net negative,
yeah. The only thing I ever want to do when I go to a tournament is have fun. If you're not having a good time, then there's no point in going to an event or competing or playing with other people. You can't take it seriously. With any type of competition. And I really do enjoy competing, and I guess that's what does drive me when I think about pinball is enjoying myself, with other players and all the other people that are in pinball. It's such a great community, and especially the competitive community has so many good friends in it, and that's what I'm really excited about when I think about pinball. And going to play some pinball is the people I'm going to play with and the type of competitive experience I'm going to have with the game.
That's great. That's well put. Thank you again, Kaylee, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot.
I hope we can chat at Papa, and I wish you the best of luck defending, man.
Hey, thank you, and thanks for having me on. And thank you, everybody, for listening to me babble.
There he is. It's the champion, Kaylee George. What a fun interview. I think you can tell listening to the show right now that I am excited about Papa. I am trying to use this show, Coast to Coast Pinball, as a platform to drive my enthusiasm and promote the event and the competition, and I love it. So appreciate it. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again really soon. Take care of yourselves.